Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are tackling a massive mystery in the modern business world. You know, organizations are spending absolute millions on cutting-edge data architecture and AI agents. They expect them to just magically streamline their entire operations, but instead, they're hitting a brick wall. So why are so many enterprise AI investments struggling to deliver a reliable return on investment? Well, today we're going to use insights from John Chatzitz's research on context graphs and integrated process excellence to uncover exactly what is missing. We're going to look at the crucial deployment layer that your AI just completely assumes is there, but honestly, definitely isn't. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the context graph revolution, look at the really dangerous hidden assumption vendors are making, dive into integrated process excellence, map our data to the process, and finally, figure out how to achieve that true AI ROI.
All right, part one, the context graph revolution. Let's kick things off with the leading solution to enterprise AI's runtime memory problem.
To really get the problem, we first have to understand the tech that's trying to solve it, right? So you've probably heard of knowledge graphs. They are great for storing static facts about an organization, like who your customers are or exactly what products you sell. But, and this is a big but, they don't tell an AI agent what to actually do. Enter the context graph. This is a crucial evolution. It's essentially a runtime record that takes those static facts and attaches operating context to them. It literally gives your AI agents the runtime memory they need to step up and take action rather than just pulling up basic facts like a digital encyclopedia. Now, what's actually super cool here is how 4 specific additions finally allow an agent to answer incredibly complex operational questions. Instead of just asking a basic question like, hey, who owns this account? An agent can now ask, wait, can this counterparty be onboarded under our current active policy? It does this by tracking temporal validity, so knowing exactly which version of a rule applied on a very specific date. It records decision traces, which captures the reasoning and the precedent behind an action. It uses applicability and policy logic to know exactly which rules apply to which specific case. And it tracks provenance and approver history, so we know without a doubt who authorized the decision. It really is an incredibly powerful architectural advance. Moving right along to part 2. The dangerous hidden assumption. And guys, here is where we hit the plot twist that nearly every vendor description in the current market completely misses. So you have to ask yourself, what if your underlying process is literally just broken? Every single context graph vendor out there assumes that a stable, well-defined process already exists to generate all those neat decision traces we just talked about. They assume your policies already have clear owners and that exceptions are handled consistently across the board. But what happens when your beautifully, perfectly designed AI is just recording a chaotic, completely undefined business process? Well, you end up with a perfectly governed record of an absolutely ungoverned operation. Think about it like a massive Hollywood movie set. The context graph is this state-of-the-art 4K ultra-high-definition camera. It is going to record whatever is in front of it with flawless, perfect fidelity. But if there's no director organizing the actors, setting the scene, handing out the scripts, that incredibly expensive camera is just flawlessly recording pure chaos. The graph itself cannot organize the room for you. So, the crucial takeaway here is that context graphs assume stable policies and consistent exceptions already exist. And honestly, that is a massive, dangerous blind spot. The graph is only as trustworthy as the process generating the decisions it's storing. If your team is out there making undocumented, on-the-fly decisions every day, your AI agent is going to learn and replicate those exact same inconsistencies. It assumes structure, but it has absolutely zero mechanism to actually verify or create that structure. Which brings us nicely to part 3, Integrated Process Excellence, or IPE. Enter the director that organizes the room before that high-def camera ever starts rolling. So this is exactly where Integrated Process Excellence steps in. It was created by John Chatziz, and it's rooted in foundational work refined across 30 years in really complex industries like aerospace, automotive, pharmaceutical, and manufacturing operations. Now, IPE is not a software competitor to your AI tools. Instead, think of it as the rescuing foundational layer. It's a deployment framework that makes your decisions consistent, ownable, and improvable before they are ever recorded by your context graph. Let's just walk through this brilliant 6-step methodology that actually establishes the governance your AI agents are desperately hunting for. First up, you create a positive environment, which means setting up your escalation and deviation rules. Second, you define the process, establishing a very clear hierarchy of activities. Third, document the process to create standard work. Fourth, communicate the process to assign crystal clear ownership. Fifth,
measure and control to set your performance limits. And sixth, continuous improvement, which establishes a loop for corrective actions. This sequence, this is the hard, necessary work that gives your AI something genuinely worth recording.
I really want to emphasize this punchy little aphorism. Process first, tool second. It's that simple. The tech tool, whether that's your context graph, your AI agents, your fancy orchestration layer, is ultimately just a container. Integrated process excellence is what ensures you are producing something worth putting inside that container. Because if you deploy AI onto an undefined process, you are quite literally just getting automated inconsistency. All right, let's jump to part 4, mapping data to process. Let's bring this all together by connecting these abstract tech concepts directly to real, tangible business elements. This right here is the real aha moment of the whole framework. Every single node that a context graph stores maps directly to a deliverable in the IPE framework. Think about it. When the graph looks for a policy node, it's completely relying on IPE step 2, where you defined the process. When the graph stores a decision precedent, it's actively citing the standard work you created way back in step 3. The approver list, that comes directly from step 4. The context graph is asking your AI agent to blindly trust these nodes, but it's the IPE deployment work that actually makes these nodes trustworthy in the real world. Furthermore, IPE brings a causal data architecture to the table that just perfectly complements the graph. It organizes your operational data by its causal role: key input variables, key process variables, and key output variables. So instead of just organizing data by entity type, like a standard database, this KIV, KPV, KOV structure organizes it by direct cause and effect. IPE supplies the causal structure of how the business genuinely runs, and the context graph supplies the runtime memory of how that structure was applied in real time. Honestly, they're a match made in heaven. Finally, part 5, achieving true AI ROI. Let's bring it all home and see how we can actually guarantee a return on these massive technological investments. Look at the contrast here, because the failure mode of relying purely on data architecture is pretty stark. A context graph alone, it just gives you a perfect machine-readable record of inconsistent, completely ungoverned decisions. It doesn't fix the business at all. But when you marry your data architecture with process excellence, it changes absolutely everything. A context graph plus IPE yields stable, highly trustworthy decision traces that your AI agents can act on with total confidence. Why? Because the process behind every single trace is finally under control. If you remember one thing from this explainer, it should be this ultimate formula: data plus process equals AI ROI. Over the past couple of years, the market has really heavily over-indexed on the data side of that equation. We've all bought the knowledge graphs, we bought the context graphs, the orchestrators, the whole shebang. But to actually get that ROI, you have to actively step up and build out the process side. Now, the good news is you don't have to start from an absolute blank slate. To accelerate all of this, there are things called IPE packs. These are essentially sector-specific process intelligence libraries that give you a predefined backbone right out of the box. They instantiate that 6-step framework we talked about for your specific industry. They even include some really advanced features like SMAA, which stands for Success Mode and Effects Analysis Scoring, using the Bill of Materials, or BOM, model to structure your data. In short, they ensure your organization doesn't have to guess when trying to close the massive gap between what your AI tools can store and what your organization actually knows how to do. So, I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought to challenge your current enterprise AI roadmap. Ask yourself, has your underlying process actually been deployed, or has it really only been described? If you're out there evaluating new AI agents, or any governance and orchestration tool for that matter, you need to ask yourself this question first. Because until your process is fully defined, documented, and controlled, your AI is literally just filming the chaos. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you capture that missing half of your AI ROI.